Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Green. I'm the CEO for the Center for Environmental Health. This virtual town hall is titled Eat Your Peas, Not PFAS. I'm here in conversation with Shanza, who's a 10th grader and a youth activist with the group Heirs to Our Oceans. So I checked out Heirs to Our Oceans, and what I discovered is profound. So I want to read you something. Heirs to Our Oceans is a youth-driven nonprofit that works to achieve their mission of inspiring the next generation of leaders by connecting them in purpose, educating them on environmental and humanitarian global challenges, supporting them in realizing solutions, and cultivating necessary skills to make real-world change and adapt to the world they're inheriting. It's deep. So, Shanza, I know that you got connected to CEH through your third grade teacher, Jacqueline Omanya at Oxford Elementary in Berkeley. And now you're a sophomore at Berkeley High. I also know that you are a youth you're on the Youth Advisory Council for the United Nations Oceans Decade. I also want to let everybody know that Shanza and the students and the teachers and the staff at Berkeley Unified aren't just trying to eliminate toxic chemicals in single-use foodware. They're exploring eliminating single-use foodware altogether. It's bold. So Shanza, I'm thrilled to be with you. I'm excited that CEH gets to work with leaders like you. And I want to thank you for all the work you're doing, including the topic of this conversation, which is fighting for safer foodware at the school that you go to. So how did you first learn about the issue of toxic chemicals in single-use foodware?
Thank you so much, Michael, for that introduction. I first learned about toxic chemicals in single-use foodware, especially in our school district, as part of Heirs to Our Oceans, the Berkeley chapter of Heirs to Our Oceans, led by my third grade teacher, Miss Omanya. And it was startling because we had no idea until we got it tested in a lab. And when we figured out it contained PFAS, the issues are not just the youth, but even the adults.
That's cool. What changes have you already seen in your school since learning about the issue?
Unfortunately, there actually hasn't been much change physically in schools, especially because of COVID. Because if you had reusables, you would have to wash it, and it's a huge logistical challenge. However, regarding policy, we're hopefully looking to slowly transition towards reusable foodware. And we're petitioning the school board to approve this. And so far, we've been having enormous support from all these people who are very committed to leaving the planet a healthy place for the next generation.
That's great. So what's at stake? What's at stake when there's these toxic chemicals in foodware that kids are eating off of every day?
I would say everything's at stake. Our future is at stake. I think toxic chemicals can cause reproductive harm and a host of other health issues. And so it's impacting our generation's ability to have kids as well as live a comfortable life. In addition, these toxics, once thrown out, often end up in the ocean and end up as toxins in the ocean, which are ingested by other animals there, which not only harms them, but in turn harms us when we eat these animals.
Mm-hmm. And do you have a vision that you're going to do this work professionally when you're older, work like this?
Honestly, I'm not sure I have a vision for myself for the future exactly, but I do know that whatever I choose to become, this is definitely going to be a big part of it, if not professionally, definitely on a personal level.
That's great. You're awesome. Any last things that you want to share with our audience?
I think I would just leave our audience saying to always use reusable when possible. I know it may be difficult sometimes, but sometimes you, instead of when you go to a restaurant or something, you can try and bring your own utensils instead of the plastic ones that they always give you, or just even the small act of using a reusable water bottle instead of buying plastic water bottles. All these small steps lead to bigger change. And Miss Omanya in third grade always told me that every small act counts. And so you may not think that it's a huge thing that, oh, I'm not using one plastic fork or I'm not using one plastic water bottle. But when you add that up, it's quite a bit. And so the change that you can make just as one person is quite enormous. So always try and use reusables as much as possible. Thank you.
Sure. I love that. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for making a difference, not only in Berkeley at Berkeley Unified, but also as a model for the country and for all of us.
Thank you so much.
Hello, and welcome to the Center for Environmental Health's virtual town hall. Eat Your Peas, Not Your PFAS. A humorous title for a serious look into the movement to make school lunch plates safe from PFAS, which are also known as forever chemicals. My name is Randall Miller, and I'm the Managing Director of Programs at the Center for Environmental Health. We just heard from a very inspirational youth leader fighting for safe foodware in her school. And now we're going to turn to a live panel of other advocates and their discussion, where we'll hear how manufacturers are eliminating PFAS from disposable foodware with a brand new green screen certification program. Woohoo! If you didn't know already, CEH is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to protecting people from toxic chemicals using science, policy, litigation, and purchasing power to create real, tangible wins for public health. Now, throughout this town hall meeting, you will see a text to donate number going through the chat. Where you can contribute to CEH, or you can support us by going to ceh.org/donate. We can only do this work because of generous supporters like you. Also, if you tweet, please use the hashtag #CEHTownHall when tweeting about this event. It would be lovely to have a little Twitter storm while we're trying to take down PFAS. All right, finally, before we get started, I'd like to thank our generous sponsors, LinkedIn, Naturepedic, Pacific Coast Producers, Facebook, and others that will be listed in the chat box. Okay, I'm excited to introduce our three speakers. First, I'd like to introduce Sue Chang, who I have the privilege of working with, who is CEH's Director of the Food Program and who has been leading the nationwide effort to eliminate PFAS from disposable foodware and help K through 12 schools make the switch to reusables. Sue, take it away.
Thank you, Randall. Hi, I'm Sue Chang, Director of the Food Program at the Center for Environmental Health. Most people tend to assume that if a product is for sale on the market, that it's safe. This assumption is probably even more common for products that come into contact with our food, such as food packaging and food serviceware. Roughly 12,000 chemicals are used in the production of food contact materials globally. Many of these chemicals are used in single-use foodware to provide flexibility, add color, as fillers, and to protect against heat or sunlight, for example. Unfortunately, some of these chemicals cause harm like cancer, birth defects, and impaired fertility. After more than 25 years of working in the toxics field and 15 years at CEH, I'm so proud to have launched the Green Screen Certified Standard for food serviceware together with Clean Production Action just last week. This initiative builds on our work with schools and businesses who are helping to move the market towards safer foodware. We have already come a long way over the last few years towards our goal of eliminating PFAS chemicals from single-use food serviceware. What are PFAS, you might be thinking? That stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which are a group of over 9,000 compounds that have gained increasing notoriety due to their extreme persistence. They've been nicknamed forever chemicals because they do not break down in the environment. Their widespread use in consumer products and industrial applications for their grease, stain, and water-resistant properties. PFAS are associated with a range of adverse health effects, including cancers, elevated cholesterol levels, low birth weight, effects on the immune system, and thyroid hormone disruption. In 2017 and early 2018, 100% of the molded fiber products that CEH tested contained high levels of fluorine, an indicator for the likely presence of PFAS. Molded fiber products are those eco-friendly looking items made out of sugarcane, bagasse, wheat straw, or some mix of plant fibers. We have seen an increased pressure to phase out PFAS from the single-use food serviceware market through a number of different approaches, and CEH is working together with many kinds of groups across the US on state and local policies, purchasing specifications and contracts, and certifications, including the Biodegradable Products Institute and the Compost Manufacturing Alliance's compostability certifications that all restrict PFAS from food packaging and food serviceware. Today, there are an increasing number of companies with molded fiber products that are now PFAS-free, which is great news for all of us. However, we typically have no information about what the manufacturers are using instead of PFAS. So we applaud Eco Products for being the first manufacturer to earn the Green Screen Certified Silver designation for a food serviceware product line. And this is why the Green Screen certification comes at a key time to provide verification for purchasers through a trusted and credible third party that the products are PFAS-free and don't have known regrettable substitutes. Is this coming across as all Greek to you? Well, we've heard from purchasers that independent third-party certifications can be great resources, especially because even when you know what to ask your suppliers or manufacturers about, it can be really difficult for individual purchasers to verify those claims. Hazardous chemicals like PFAS should not be in these products in the first place. As we move to eliminate PFAS and other toxic chemicals, we don't want regrettable substitutes and want to know that the ingredients in our food serviceware have been assessed for toxicity and preferred chemistry. As we transition to a sustainable, reusable, circular economy, it's important to think of the life cycle of each of these products. Our ultimate goal is safer reusables, and where single-use products are used, we want them to be free of toxic chemicals. This is a start on that journey, helping to make the transition to a healthier and safer material economy. Thanks.
Thanks, Sue. Next, we have Mark Rossi, Executive Director of Clean Production Action, or CPA, who co-created the Green certification along with CEH for disposable foodware. Mark is going to tell us more about this groundbreaking certification effort. Take it away, Mark.
Thank you, Randall, and the Center for Environmental Health team. Glad to be here with all of you on the virtual town hall. As Randall said, I'm the Executive Director at Clean Production Action. We too are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance solutions to toxic chemicals, and we do that through tools and collaborations like Green Screen Certified. And I'm thinking about this presentation, I was thinking back to pre-pandemic era when we used to get together informally to have conversations. And Michael and I got together for coffee in Berkeley around 2016, and we're talking about different ways that Clean Production Action and CEH could partner to advance safer solutions to toxic chemicals. And along the way, we brainstormed some possible ideas, and we landed on this space around food serviceware products and what we could do together to really transform these products and to make a difference in the marketplace. And so we landed on Green Screen Certified, and Clean Production Action and CEH have been on this journey for the past 3 years of creating this certification. And it really is a challenging process. And along the way, David Friedland from Eco Products, who you will hear from shortly, has been on this journey with us. And as we are trying to create this certification, one of the issues that we're really working at, and Sue highlighted this, is avoiding a regrettable substitute. So many of you are familiar with polystyrene products, right? Those foam containers. And so and many communities in California and elsewhere have banned polystyrene foam containers in coffee cups and takeout containers. And so the solution, which was a great idea, right, is to move to compostable food serviceware products, right, that you could use and then put into a compost system and to go back into the environment, right? So we really want, right, this circular economy of having materials be used and then reused or recycled or composted and brought back into another product or brought back into another positive resource like compost that can be then used to grow food. Well, who knew and who thought that these compostable materials, right, had to have these additives that would be put in there to keep them, right, from breaking apart as you put, right, salad dressing on that salad that you're putting in that takeout container. So what we would find, right, is that there had PFAS chemicals added in them to, right, keep them from your container from breaking down as you had oily, greasy water food in the container. And so we said, okay, well, obviously we don't want PFAS in the products. We want there to be preferred alternatives. Let's go about and create a framework for doing that. And one of the real challenges in this process is that companies then said, okay, like eco products, we agree, let's find alternatives. We don't want PFAS in the products. Now let's use alternatives. Well, what is in the alternative? What other chemicals are used so now you don't have PFAS to create that oil and grease and water resistance? What's the alternative? And this is where Green Screen Certified, really one of the powerful parts of it is, because it's a framework that evaluates all the chemicals in a product as well as its impurities to say, all right, are there any chemicals of concern in there? Are there safer chemicals being used? And as part of that process, and David can share this with you, the companies have to share complete chemical ingredient information with Clean Production Action that gets evaluated to the criteria. And this is often a challenge of getting this information from suppliers to provide this information. And so we sign non-disclosure agreements to keep the information confidential, to evaluate that chemical ingredient information to rigorous criteria that addresses thousands of chemicals in the product, ensure that those chemicals are not in the product. I mean, certainly, we as Clean Production Action as a nonprofit organization would want those chemical ingredients to be fully, transparently shared with the public. But in the meantime, right, there's a step forward. Getting this information confidentially enables us to evaluate the chemicals, right, to get into the black box of what is in these products. So we evaluate those chemicals in the product to the criteria, which are publicly and freely available, and that information is both on CEH's website and Clean Production Action's website. Then the companies have to test for PFAS. They have to test for bisphenols and phthalates and heavy metals to provide documentation that these known other hazardous chemicals are not in the product. The products also must be recyclable or compostable to meet the criteria. And then if they meet all those criteria, and that's when they get the certification. So we're really excited to have gone on this journey with David in terms of evaluating their products. He can share more about that and their process. And I also want to say, we've started on this stepwise process of we're starting with single-use products. We will turn to reusable products in 2022 because we recognize that your organizations are going to continue to have situations where they need single-use products. We want to make sure that those products are environmentally preferable. And then we are going to be turning to reusable products. So we're very excited to be on the journey with CEH in releasing Green Screen Certified for food serviceware. Back to you, Randall.
Thanks, Mark. We look forward to hearing more from you. Lastly, we have David Friedland, Sustainability Maven at EcoProducts. I want that title, to tell us why it was important for their company to go through Green Screen certification to ensure that their products are PFAS-free and don't have regrettable solutions, don't have known regrettable solutions. David, take it away.
Randall, thank you so much. And thank you to the entire CEH and CPA teams for getting us to this point. It's been a long ride, but certainly, it's great to be here and be included in this panel as well. So like Randall said, I'm our sustainability maven at EcoProducts. So I focus on really everything sustainability within the business. EcoProducts is a compostable food service packaging manufacturer. And when I introduce us, I like to say that, we are a zero waste focused company that happens to operate in compostables rather than the other way around. And I think that's a really important distinction. We're focused on what is, right in terms of getting food waste out of the landfill into a beneficial end use like composting, and how can we use products to facilitate that. So really, it's not about the product, right? It's about what is the sustainability sort of solution that we can work towards. And of course, public health is a big part of that, right? So, we were very excited to embark on this journey and do this work. So to give you a little bit of understanding of our sort of path here, back in, I think, December of 2016, right, there was a report that talked about, PFAS in molded fiber. And of course, for us, right, this was kind of a new understanding of, oh, this is something of concern. And so immediately we started meeting, we started talking, how do we get, an alternative for this? And thus Vanguard was born. Vanguard is our molded fiber line that does not use PFAS for grease and water resistance. FDA approved, of course, BPI certified, and all of that. We're proud to say it was the first molded fiber product that was BPI certified to the new PFAS threshold. So that was great, right? We feel like BPI certification is really important, especially in our industry. But BPI certification doesn't address this regrettable substitutes question, which we hear all the time, right? And certainly when we were first launching Vanguard, we heard it from lots of informed procurement professionals. And so we said, okay, what do we need to do? How can we, assure the market that what we're replacing PFAS with is not going to be a step in the wrong direction or a step to the side, right? We want to be taking a step forward. So, as we started talking to CPA, the green screen certification came up as something that was coming down the road, and we decided, hey, we want to take a shot at that. That sounds like a great answer to our question of how do we assure the market. So, we worked with a toxicology firm who was also a service provider for the green screen certification to start vetting the chemistries that we were using as this alternative in Vanguard. And as we dove deeper and deeper, we got all of this information together, and we were able to successfully submit and get the certification, which we're so happy about. I think for us, right, the value of green screen certification is just like the value of BPI certification. It doesn't mean much if I say, hey, this is compostable. Hey, this is, environmentally preferable, right? It doesn't mean much if EcoProducts is saying that. What we need is third-party certification saying, we've tested this, we've looked at this, and we agree. This is certified compostable. We agree. This is green screen certified. So for us, right, certification is really important throughout a variety of things. And this is just one more way that we can assure the market that we've met these standards. I would say too, one last piece is, for us, the composter is our most important stakeholder. And I go to a lot of composting conferences, and when this PFAS conversation came up, we had a lot of really hard conversations, right? The last thing we want to do is harm that industry or put them at risk. And so, I think in a lot of ways they felt betrayed by the compostable packaging industry. So I hope that the changes that we've seen at BPI and then now the new green screen certification is a way that we can assure the composting community, hey, we're going to get more food waste out of the landfill and bring it to you using our products as that vehicle. But we're also going to make sure that what we're putting in the pile, our products, are not going to harm your finished product so that you can sell your compost. We can get it out on rangelands. We can get it out in gardens so we can grow better crops. We can, sequester carbon, all the great things that compost does. So for us, that's such an important piece. And we're so happy that green screen certification has allowed us to make that community feel even more confident with what we bring to them.
Great. So thanks to all three of our panelists. We had some questions submitted in advance with registration. So I'm going to just walk us through some of those questions and just call on the panelists to answer them individually or collectively. And the first question is for Mark and David. How can manufacturers use the green screen certification to both make safer products, but also benefit their bottom line? David, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the question. I think, first of all, we don't have a full service toxicology team on our staff. So I think just having that guidance and having that knowledge from a third party is very valuable. I think also, when I hear from procurement professionals or food service operators, whether that be a university or a school district or whomever that is, and they talk about PFAS, they have a hard time of then knowing what is the right choice after that, right? Where do I go? And so I think the green screen certification gives them guidance on here is what you should be purchasing. And so I think for us that helps, right? Because it increases our revenue around a certified product. So I think in those two ways, it can really help us.
Yeah, and to add into David,
And how about you, Mark?
yes, to add into David's remarks, one of the a couple of interesting parts around the safer chemicals in the products has been, we have a number of other certifications, and what we find is manufacturers start down this process, and then they have PFAS, but there's other chemicals that are in the products, and they find those other chemicals in the products, and those other chemicals can end up being chemicals of concern, right? They can cause cancer, they can disrupt the endocrine system, right? They can cause reproductive harm. And we've had a number of occasions where companies have had to go back and reformulate the products. Another part where this certification helps out, in some cases, those suppliers to companies like David will not tell David what's in their alternative formulation to provide that oil and grease resistance. And so another value that Green Screen Certified provides is those suppliers can go and give that information to us, Clean Production Action, knowing that we're not a manufacturer. We're not going to go out there and replicate their product and their formulation, because that's not what we do. And so we then get that information and are able to evaluate it and say that, yes, there aren't any chemicals of concern in that formulation. So it's this process of what CEH and CPA do in terms of being this intermediary in terms of evaluating the chemicals in products and things that most of us, right, don't want to think about and don't spend the time trying to understand what these complex words are. And then when they're on the package, even if they are they problematic or not? And so that's the role that we play, is evaluating those chemicals, ensuring those chemicals aren't chemicals of concern, so that consumers have that assurance, and also providing that guidance that David mentioned to manufacturers.
Cool, thanks for that. Sue, I think this question is for you. How can large purchasers like K through 12 school districts use their purchasing dollars to shift the market towards healthier products? Freudian slip.
All right, thanks, Randall. Purchasers in all different sectors, such as government agencies, businesses, schools, and universities, healthcare, and others, have the power to help get toxic chemicals out of everyday items, such as food serviceware. Having a unified ask of manufacturers in the food serviceware sector sends a strong signal to drive the market towards environmentally preferable products that use safer chemistry. School districts in particular are an ideal and powerful setting for shifting to healthier food serviceware options. Because we are focused on toxic chemicals, especially hormone disrupting chemicals like PFAS, CH has been paying special attention to K through 12 schools because of the particular vulnerability of young children as they're developing and growing so rapidly. And as we're encouraging a move to safer reusables in the long term, this is also an opportunity to ingrain sustainability practices at an early age. It's really important to teach kids that not everything is disposable. And there are so many types of stakeholders that are the ones driving the change at schools. Everyone from students at elementary, middle, and high school levels, as you've already heard from Shanza and Berkeley, teachers, parents, green team members, school staff in food nutrition, sustainability, facilities, waste management, engaged community members, local nonprofit groups, and more. So I could talk about so many different champions that we've been talking to across the country, but I only have time to acknowledge maybe a few folks at schools who are leading the way towards healthier foodware. So I just want to give an example. This guy, Clayton, who's a building manager at Trailblazer Elementary in Colorado, he was actually inspired after attending one of CEH's webinars where we featured speakers who shared what their school districts in Washington and Connecticut were doing to move towards reusables. And he actually went back and started to do research. He talked to other staff at his school and the head of the PTA, and he was able to not only get reusables into their school, but was able to make it happen during the pandemic. And then, of course, there are the folks at Berkeley Unified School District. You already heard from Shanza. There's so many great folks involved with this effort at Berkeley, and they're looking to move to safer reusables. And I really want to acknowledge a partnership with other nonprofits like Rethink Disposables and Upstream and a whole range of groups that have been instrumental in really sort of inspiring and helping to move schools across the country to look at healthier options for foodware. And the final example I want to give is New York City School District and other members of the Urban School Food Alliance actually pushed for PFAS-free molded fiber trays that are now in all those schools. And I think we're at the stage now, as we're getting PFAS out of these products, we need to make sure that there are no regrettable substitutes by asking suppliers to become green screen certified the way Eco Products has done. And this past summer, CH came out with Ditching Disposables, a toolkit for K through 12 schools that includes a planning guide to provide support for schools that want to move to healthier foodware options. We also have a variety of tools. There's, some interesting funding opportunities that are popping up. And so I think there's a lot of options available for schools to consider.
Great. It's so wonderful to hear about all the activists, the school activists who are working on this problem. I've got one more question that was submitted in advance, and I'm going to ask all three of you to answer that. But I'll do a little mercious. In the next session, we'll be moving into live questions. So if you have a question that you'd like to submit and have the panelists respond to, please submit that in the chat. We'll get to as many of those as we can within the time that we have available. But think about it and submit those questions now. So here's the last question that I'm hoping that all three of you can tackle. And the question is, what's at stake if we don't shift away from disposable foodware that is coated with toxic chemicals? And I think the order will take your responses. We'll start with David and then move to Sue, and then Mark, you can bring up the rear guard. What's at stake?
Yeah. So I imagine the other two panelists will kind of dive deeper on the public health consequences, but so I'll speak specifically to what's at stake with the composting community if we don't get PFAS out of compostable packaging, specifically molded fiber, is really where it's found. I think we have a lot of challenges as the compostable packaging industry in getting acceptance of our products, whether that's from traditional kind of contamination of, landfill bound type items getting in the compost stream, or recyclables getting in the compost stream. There are market challenges. So, we don't need another challenge. And so I think what's at stake is the composting community no longer accepting compostable food service packaging. And that's like I said, it's not about the package, it's about the food waste. So if we are unable to use our products to deliver food waste to that composter, if they don't accept that opportunity, then what are we doing here? So I think for us, this is just another piece of making sure that our products fit in that system. So I think for us, it's very much an existential threat, and one that, at least at Eco Products, we are really focused on getting to a better state, and also encouraging our peers with other companies to follow suit, because they're not going to be able to tell, that composter is not going to be able to tell the difference between an Eco Products clamshell and a competitors that is not green screen certified. So we need to get this whole industry to this new state here. We're doing things to try to help our product be easily identified. So certainly we're trying to get through that, and through different mechanisms of working with the procurement teams, we can assure that a certain venue only uses Vanguard, for example. So there are ways that we can get through that, but certainly we need the rest of the industry to follow us in this.
Great. How about you, Sue?
So I know we're not only talking about PFAS, but I think because the group of chemicals of PFAS are so just concerning, they're just so extremely persistent. They don't really go away and are very difficult to clean up once they're out in the environment, out in our bodies. And they have such a range of adverse health effects, especially at very low levels of the chemicals. It's really important for us to address this issue as soon as possible. It's used actually in such a huge range of products and industrial processes as well. I mean, we didn't even mention all the things that it's used in. And so we really just need to turn off the tap and stop these products from being, these chemicals from being used in the first place. So I think I'll leave it there and let Mark talk about the rest.
Yeah, and to add to Sue and David's comments, Sue mentioned early on that PFAS are a class of chemicals. Estimates range from 5,000 to 9,000 chemicals, and so certainly one thing we don't want is a company going from one PFAS to another PFAS to another PFAS, right? So that's why addressing these chemicals as a class is really important. And then we don't want, what happened when we went from polystyrene to compostable food service, where with PFAS is we don't want the regrettable substitution, right? So now's the time to get this right. So when a company goes through this process and makes the substitution, right, they don't want to be back, in another year, another 2 years, having to go through this whole process of reevaluating their chemistry constantly. So this is an opportunity to really get this right. And I think it also does set the stage for, what does it look like in terms of the chemistry of reusable materials, of paper and paperboard products, what's going into those products? Are those companies using preferable chemistries and safer chemistries in those materials? So is this a real opportunity to have a game-changing shift in how companies evaluate and select their chemistries, and then making it easier for the purchasers, right? It's so easy to say, I want green screen certified versus don't give me any Proposition 65 carcinogens, don't give me any European Union reproductive toxicants, right? Purchasers don't even know about that and don't even want to think about that. So green screen certified creates a really simple ask for purchasers, and it creates a clear set of criteria for manufacturers to meet.
Thanks for that. So we do have some questions rolling in. So I'm going to interject one here. The first question is independent third-party testing really required? And the questioner goes on to say, we've seen suppliers provide written statements stating that there is no PFAS and the top testing is pretty high. I'm wondering, Sue and Mark, if you want to respond to that. Do we need third-party testing, and if so, why? When it seems like there are some manufacturers who are suggesting that their products are PFAS free and have tested them.
Do you want to take that, Mark, or
You go first, Sue.
Oh, well, I think it's just important for there to be this independent testing happening just to verify what the claims are, because a lot of times manufacturers don't even know what is in their products. And so it's a just easy tool, especially with the PFAS testing, because it is a initial screening that's really not that expensive.
And I would add, additionally, we're asking them to test for PFAS. We're also asking to tests for other chemicals of concern, the bisphenols, the phthalates, heavy metals. David can say, I don't know, David, if you want to say a little bit about that testing that you have to go through, but we've definitely ramped up the testing requirements because we want to make sure that these other chemical, not only are PFAS there, but other chemicals of concern aren't there. And just, to know around the requirements for the certification, you're not allowed to intentionally add any PFAS into the product. So if it's intentionally added, it doesn't pass certification. And so we're really testing here for our impurities, right? Chemicals that are ending up in the product through other pathways that we're not intending, and to make sure that then they are below those thresholds to meet the impurity requirements.
So what I'll just add is, when Sue says something, about, right, manufacturers not knowing what's in their products, I think it's about the layers that they go deep, right? So if I turn to my supplier and I say, hey, what's in this compound, right? They tell me the brand name, or they tell me, here's what it is, right? But through this process, we've had to go layer deep, right? To know exactly what is the subcomponent of the subcomponent, so that we have a full disclosure for green screen certification. So it's not necessarily negligence or anything on the manufacturer's part. It's just, we're not always asking all of those questions because that's just not, it hasn't been typical. And so I think this process allows us to start having those conversations, and also allows for the confidentiality, where the reason they don't want to tell, the subcomponent supplier doesn't want to tell our supplier, is because they're in competition to get in that chemistry package, right? So they don't want to say all of the information because that's a trade secret, or it's competitive, right? So having this third party negotiate that kind of confidentiality is really helpful, because we can't do that. They're not going to tell us, right? So I think having that third party allows us to really dive in and get into what's actually the base pieces.
Thank you for adding that, David, because I think most people don't even realize what a complex supply chain it is for something as simple as a paper plate, and it's not that simple.
Thanks to all of you. We have another question, and it really has to do with the higher cost of products like that companies like Vanguard produce. And I think the questioner is asking, can you please touch on why these products are more expensive? What causes that, and what contributes to the what the person has identified as high cost? And David,
Yeah.
I think that goes to you, but if anyone else wants to chime in, that's helpful too. David.
Thank you, Randall. And thanks for the question. It's one that we hear a lot, right? Eco products, compostable packaging generally is more expensive than traditional packaging. And we don't have to get into the fact that, with traditional packaging that has no end of life, the negative externalities are not fully accounted, right? We don't have to go that far, but I think a lot of it is with compostable packaging generally, we just haven't had as much time to optimize the system as traditional packaging. So we're trying to get there, right? But we're not at the scale of styrofoam containers or PE lined cups that have been around for a long time, right? So I think in that way, we're just not realizing those economies of scale yet, but we're getting there. And so I think in the near future, we will see these things changing as more and more people are adopting compostable packaging, specifically for Vanguard, right? And I imagine other items that are not using PFAS that are nascent to the market. I think just like anything that's new, there are R&D costs that have gone into this, right? We're not just buying this, we've developed the chemistry, worked with our supplier partners to make it happen. And so there's a lot of costs that have gone into that. And it's also not at scale yet too. So I think that's why we see these higher costs. But I guess what I would say is, while we get there, right, stick with us, right? Like, these are new things can be challenging. But the more people that get on board and that demand this change, the sooner we'll get to that point where you see more cost parity as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Great,
think in
thanks.
other sectors, we've seen this similar situation where when you have a new formulation or change where you have to sometimes add or change equipment, there's going to be increased costs in the beginning because you've invested in that change. And then as the market gets, greater adoption among a lot of different manufacturers, the prices will go down.
Yes, so let's get to critical mass sooner rather than later.
And I want to
Mark,
add just a little, just quickly also on the cost. I mean, a number of states, California, Washington, New York, Maine have banned Vermont PFAS in food packaging beginning next year. So we're going to see the shift away from PFAS. Then the question is it safer or not, right? Is it preferred chemistry or not? And that's where the certification really becomes a unique identifier that chemistry has been evaluated to third-party criteria.
great. So we're going to shift to a different topic and question. And so, Mark and David, how can manufacturers use the green screen certification product to both make products safer, but also benefit their bottom line? David, let's start with you. Oh, did I jump back? I'm sorry. Let's change to a new question. Sorry, I had a sense of deja.
We covered
I had
that
a sense
one.
of deja vu. I had a great sense of deja vu there. Sorry. Actually, the question is, what's the importance of total fluorine testing? What importance does total fluorine testing have for validating food packaging products PFAS levels? That's David and Mark. Do you want me to repeat that, or did you get it?
No, I got it. So I hear this one a lot, right? Where with BPI, we've had 100 parts per million. I believe that's the same for the green screen certification, and we see that in other places too. And people say, okay, well, 100 parts per million total fluorine content. Does that mean there's still PFAS there, just at a lower level? And really, that test is my understanding, and I'm a political science major here, so forgive me, but it's really just an indicator, right? So if you see a level of total fluorine content that is above 100 parts per million, typically well above 100 parts per million in a food service item, that indicates intentional use of PFAS. So it's really just a kind of a check, right? A verification, right? We're saying don't have PFAS in here, but let's test it to make sure. And so if you get a number below 100 parts per million, that indicates that the PFAS is not being intentionally used in that item.
Yeah, and just to put some clarification to on the term, so PFAS is fluorine and carbon, right, bonded together, and so the test so PFAS is organofluorine, carbon and fluorine, and then this test is just, does it have fluorine in it, right? So you could have fluorine in it that's not a PFAS chemical, just to provide some clarity. So this test, as David was saying, is around the total fluorine for just the reason he said, as an indicator to say, okay, it's not there. So it's really about confirming that companies are not intentionally adding the chemicals into the product.
So let's bring you back into this. We get our schools. It's not easy to access and obtain information on where schools and towns can order this information. This questioner says their town is hesitant on making a switch unless it's all easily laid out for them. How can you respond? What advice can you give to this questioner?
I had a little trouble hearing the beginning, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying, Randall. As far as trying to identify PFAS-free products, CH has been maintaining a database, a public database, where we've tested products using that total fluorine method and have as much information as possible for purchasers about which ones had high fluorine levels and which ones didn't, indicating likely PFAS use and not. And then, BPI, the Certification for Compostability, and the Compost Manufacturing Alliance, CMA, both have certifications that look at the compostability of products, and they've added in a restriction on PFAS. So both of those certifications, will help look at whether it doesn't have PFAS or not. But I think, again, as we were talking about earlier, what is really key about the green screen certification is that it will look beyond just whether or not it has PFAS, and we'll start to look at, whether there's known regrettable substitutes or not, and at the even higher levels, just do a further deeper assessment about the chemistry of these products.
Yeah, and I may have missed this part, but so is there a resource or list where people can easily go, or school systems easily go for list of these products, or is it more scattered than that?
So yeah, so CEH, as I mentioned, has our public database of products to look for whether it's PFAS free or not. BPI and CMA both have lists if you're looking for compostable products as to whether they have PFAS. And then as we get more products, I think Green Screen Certified is a really great list to look at if you want to, be more assured about any regrettable substitutes and things like that.
Okay, and I guess a related question is, how can parents, food directors, school boards, and superintendents work together to make these changes?
So
any of you all?
Yeah, I can start by just saying that, CEH has a toolkit for specifically geared towards schools, but I think a lot of the information is actually applicable to other types of organizations that are wanting to move to healthier foodware. So we do have all types of guidance and even a purchasing guidance document on CEH's website. Hopefully somebody can put the link in, but I think it's just ceh.org/foodware, where you can find a lot of the resources on how to make the switch.
Great. We touched on this earlier, but we have another question really about the problem of regrettable substitutions and how people can avoid, or systems can avoid, using other products with other dangerous classes of chemicals if, for example, PFAS are banned. Any responses to that, to go a little further on the regrettable substitution problem?
I can start. So the certification requirements for products being green screen certified is you can't have any bisphenols. So many of you may be familiar with BPA, bisphenol A. You can't have any phthalates, which have been a commonly known chemical of concern to reproductive and developmental health. You can't have heavy metals, certainly lead, mercury, cadmium, and a whole other list of thousands of chemicals that we've identified as being chemicals that can cause cancer, reproductive harm, that persist and bioaccumulate in the environment. So it's a very rigorous set of criteria that we folded into this standard to ensure that the products that meet the certification don't have any of those chemicals in the products. And so it's building on green screen chemical hazard assessment method that evaluates chemicals on 18 different endpoints, which I just mentioned, like cancer, reproductive toxicity, endocrine disruption.
Great. And we've kind of made it through our list of questions, and good news, you have about 30 seconds to say, leave us with important insight about green screen certification, or reducing the use or eradicating use of the PFAS in foodware. And I'm going to start with David, because you seem like you can take on surprises very well. So what would you say in 30 seconds? What's your advice to folks about what you want them to remember or take on because of this?
Yeah, well, my marketing director would hate me if I don't say, please visit ecoproducts.com. We've got more information about Vanguard there. And certainly you can find ways to purchase our products. We work with all major distributors, I'm sure there's someone in your area that is able to get Vanguard if they don't have it already. So if you're interested in it, and I would also say, you know, these are incremental steps as we try to work together to make this a better situation. So, you know, keep asking the questions, keep demanding green screen certification. Please keep demanding DPI certified packaging so we can get food waste out of landfills as well. And thank you so much for your time.
Right. Thank you, David. Mark, you're next, because I know you can roll with changes.
Yes. Well, I would pick up on David's point. Keep asking, right? Keep asking for safer, environmentally preferable products. Ask for green screen certified. Yesterday, David and Sue did a webinar with Sherry Franjevic of Clean Production Action with Advocate Aurora Health System. Health systems are another one. So anywhere that you're ending up using food serviceware products, ask, are these PFAS free? Are you getting your products certified? Do you have BPI green screen certified certifications for your products? And thank you for your time. It's been fun to be here with you.
Thank you, Mark. And Sue, you're our in-house maven. What words of wisdom do you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I have a similar message. I think the more people who are asking for these things and are asking manufacturers about, you know, what's in the products, what's being used instead of PFAS is really going to drive this change. And, you know, we're already seeing it, and we're, you know, excited that Eco Products is the first to be certified. And we hope to see a lot more products on the list. And so it's just, I think, going to increase transparency, increase better understanding, and increase everybody's health.
All right. So thanks to all three of you for making this town hall meeting as substantive as it was. We really appreciate your contributions of words, times, and strategies. And speaking of strategies, just to our audience, we want to just give you some ways that you can take action. Number one, write your local business to request green screen certified foodware or get them to switch to reusables. 2, advocate for green screen certification foodware or reusables in your school. 3, share CEH and CPA's information on avoiding harmful chemicals like PFAS, which can be found at the link we're sharing now on the chat through the magic of video conferencing. Thank you for attending our virtual town hall. If you have enjoyed it today, please donate to CEH at ceh.org/donate or by texting GIVE, that's GIVE, to 510-288-3065. Thank you all for taking time to be with us today. We appreciate your support. Thank you, panelists, again, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.